When you enter the gallery in Procreate, this will be the main screen. Click the plus sign and click screen size. That will give you a nice canvas size that is the size of your screen. What you want to do though is make sure you go back to the beginning and click on your untitled label and rename it your first and last name. First thing we're going to learn about is layers. The layer button is the double square on the top menu. And what layers allow you to do is create multiple elements in your art that you can move around individually. So I am going to select the background layer and I'm going to go to the color wheel and pick a color for my background. I picked black. Next, I'm going to create a new layer by clicking the plus sign. In this new layer, I am going to use my color wheel, that is the circle next to the layer tool, to select a color that I want to draw with. Now when you use the color wheel, you'll see that the outside disc allows you to choose a hue. That means the color of the rainbow spectrum that you would like to use. The inside circle allows you to select a color value. That is how light or dark the color is. Next, the brushes icon is all the way to the left on the top menu. There are tons of different types of brushes in Procreate that you can choose from, and a lot of these brushes will mimic different types of drawing tools. Now we're going to select a drawing brush that I think is very easy to use. It's under the calligraphy category, and it's called Monoline. Now we're going to draw a circle shape, and with your Apple Pencil or even with your finger on your screen, draw a regular circle. You might notice that this circle is not super perfect. What you can do though is tap two fingers on your screen, and what that circle will do is it will snap to be a perfect circle. Now another neat thing that you can do is you can drag colors from your color circle without opening the color wheel, and you can drop them into your shape. This is called color fill. The next thing we're going to learn about is clipping mask. Clipping mask allows you to draw on top of a shape or element in your art without it going outside of that shape or element. So what I'm going to do to my layers menu here is click the layers and click the plus sign to get a new layer. And on this new layer, I'm just going to tap the layer and I'm going to click clipping mask. Now because this layer is above layer 2, it's going to mask itself to layer 2. And in layer 2, I have that green circle. So whatever is clip masked to layer 2, which is my layer 3, is going to stick to layer 2 and only go in layer 2. It's not going to go outside of layer 2. I'm going to go to my color wheel and I'm going to select a dark green color. Using my monoline brush, I'm just going to make some lines on my circle, and you'll notice that those lines, even though I'm drawing on top and outside of the circle, the lines are staying clipped inside of the circle. Now click your color wheel and select a different color. You can select a shade of blue or even another shade of green, lighter and darker versions. So I'm just adding lighter and darker versions of blues, greens, and yellows in this circle. Next is the adjustments menu. If you look on your top menu, the little tiny, it kind of looks like a little tiny magic wand. It's next to the wrench up here by gallery. Click on that and you'll see a lot of different adjustments you can make to each of your layers. The adjustment we're going to use is called Liquify. It's at the bottom. Go ahead and click Liquify. Now under Liquify, you'll see a lot of different options of how you can basically make your object look or like it's turning into like a liquid texture. And then when I press my finger or my Apple Pencil on my layer, which is just this circle with these colors, it will start to liquefy whatever's in that layer. Next, let's mess around with the brush size and opacity. These little dials on the left-hand side of your screen, The bottom one is opacity. That will change your brush from more see-through to less see-through. The top dial will actually change your brush size. If you need your brush to be really big, push it all the way up, or smaller, push it down. All right, we're going to change our brush now from monoline to a different brush. Go to the category that's called Airbrushing and select the top one that's called Soft Brush. So let's take a look at our menu here. I've got my opacity at about 50% and my size at about 12%. And I am going to go to my color picker menu and I'm going to pick a darker color, like a darker blue I have there. And I'm just going to use my Apple Pencil to kind of shade a little bit of color onto the bottom right side of this circle. This is going to start to make this circle look like it's a more three-dimensional planet by adding a shadow. Next, grab an even darker blue or darker color and shade a little bit less on the right-hand side. And then go all the way to black and shade just a tiny, tiny bit on the side. So you're kind of layering your colors from dark blue to even darker blue to black. Next, go back to your color wheel and select a lighter blue value and shade that lighter blue value on the top left section of your planet. And then grab white and add a little bit more towards the top left. So we just created a highlight. Next, let's talk about how you can merge layers together and move them around together. I'm going to go to my layers menu and I'm going to look at layer 2 and 3. If I take my fingers and basically pinch those two layers together, it will merge the layers into one. Now, the selection tool, which is the arrow tool on the top left menu, I'm going to select that and then click on my circle. You'll see now that I can move that around because the layers are now connected together, almost like I stuck them together with glue. And I can move around those layers together and resize them. Move your layers together all the way to the top right. Okay, now we're going to repeat these steps to add 2 more planets. Add another layer. So go to your layers menu, click the plus sign, and you now have another layer. In this layer, we're going to use the monoline brush and a bright red hue. We're going to draw another circle. Remember, tap your 2 fingers on your screen to make that circle perfect. And you're going to take your red from your color wheel and pull it into the circle to fill that with red. Next, add a new layer. Make sure that new layer, on that layer 4, click it, bring up the menu and click clipping mask. Now go to your color wheel and grab a darker red. Just move your red value down a little bit and use your monoline brush to make some dark red marks on your red circle. Next, find another color, such as a bright orange or bright yellow, and draw some more lines. Then go to your adjustments button and click Liquify. And then let's repeat the same step we did for the first planet. Use the twist left and twist right. I'm even using that expand button as well, so you can kind of experiment around with each of the ways you can liquefy it. And just get those colors to mix a little bit so they look a little bit more like a planet. Next, let's add a shadow. So switch your brush from monoline to soft brush under the airbrushing menu. Grab a red that's a little bit darker than your original red. Add a little bit of a shadow to the right-hand side. Grab an even darker red and add a little bit more. So you're just kind of feathering that darkness into the circle. Grab a black and feather a little bit more. Then grab a light red, almost white, feather it into the top of the circle. Now go to your layers menu and pinch those 2 layers together to create one layer for this planet. Click your selection tool Move that planet over to the middle and bottom. Now add a new layer and we're going to draw one more planet. So move your color wheel to purple, a bright purple. Switch your brush to monoline. Draw a circle, tap your 2 fingers to make sure it's a perfect circle, and fill your color into your circle. Now add a new layer so that you can click clipping mask on that layer. Draw some dark blue, light blue, and pink lines on this planet. Go to your adjustments menu and click Liquify and mix those colors together. Now go to your color wheel and find a dark pink color value. Switch your brush to the soft brush under airbrushing. Make sure the opacity of this brush is about 50%. And add a little bit of a shadow to the right hand side of your circle. Now turn that pink down a little bit to a darker value. Add a little bit more of a shadow, feather that shadow in to the right hand side. And then finally go back to your color wheel and select black. And feather that black shadow in to the dark pink on the right hand side. Now grab a lighter pink and add a highlight to the top of the circle. And then add a tiny bit of white to finish your highlight. Okay, now go to your layers menu and pinch those 2 layers together to create one layer for that final planet. Now add a new layer. You're going to take that layer and hold it down with your finger and move the layer. If you hold your finger down, you can rearrange your layers. Pull that layer all the way to the bottom so it's underneath all 3 planets. Make sure you are selected on soft brush under airbrushing. We're going to turn up our size to about 35%, and then select a light blue color from your color menu. Click once on top of your bluish green planet, and this will create almost like a glowing effect behind the planet. Then switch to a reddish or an orangish hue. Make sure your soft brush size is about 50%, and then click on the red planet and that will create a glowing effect behind that planet. And finally, grab a pinkish or a purplish hue from your color wheel. Turn the size of your soft brush down to about 16%, making sure your opacity is about 50%, and click on your last planet. Okay, finally we're going to add a few more details to the background with a new brush. Go all the way to the bottom of your brush menu and find the category called Luminance. Click on the brush that says Glimmer. Select white from your color wheel. And if you tap into the background, you'll see that that's making sort of like a starry texture in the background. You can change the size of your brush to make smaller clusters of stars and larger clusters of stars in the background. Okay, the final tool we're going to explore is the eraser tool. The eraser tool is in between the layers and the brush tool. This tool allows you to just take any parts away from the layer that you're on. So I'm on the stars layer, So I am going to erase some of these stars. I think I just got too much in the background. So I'm just going to click and drag on the areas that I want to erase, and your tool will just get rid of those areas. Okay, let's switch our brush for the final time. Make sure you are in the luminance category and click Nebula. Turn your opacity down to about 50% and your size of your brush to about 50%. And just tap your brush using a light blue color into some of the areas of the background. You'll see that this is creating kind of like a little smoky effect, almost like a galaxy or a big cluster of stars. You can change this to pink, purple, white, whatever colors you like.